Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Sabrina Zunich? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoy this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background in this case. I'll move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Sabrina Zunich was born near Cleveland, Ohio on October 27, 1994. Both of her parents had been arrested several times and struggled with their intake of drugs and alcohol. Her father had schizophrenia and would die from a drug overdose years later in 2012. Sabrina's grandmother ended up caring for Sabrina. At age 4, Sabrina was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. At some point, she was also diagnosed with anxiety, depression, oppositional defiant disorder, and bipolar disorder. Eventually, Sabrina's grandmother grew tired of caring for her. Sabrina would get into physical fights frequently and allegedly stole from her. Her grandmother was simply ready for Sabrina to move on. Sabrina was sent to a group home at the age of 14 and then moved to various places throughout the foster care system. In July 2011, when Sabrina was 16, she was placed with Kevin and Lisa Knafel, who lived in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. The couple had been married since 2006 and had 2 daughters. Megan, who was Lisa's from a prior relationship, was born in 1999, and Haley was born in 2009. Kevin was a truck driver who worked overnight, and Lisa was a social worker for the Department of Children and Family Services. The couple's experience in the foster care system was limited to caring for younger children. They never had a child as old as Sabrina. Despite this, the placement of Sabrina in their home appeared to be successful, at least initially. Sabrina was doing well in school and liked having 2 sisters. However, by December, Sabrina started misbehaving. She felt as though Lisa was biased in favor of her own 2 daughters and treated her unfairly. Lisa and Sabrina argued frequently as Lisa desperately tried to maintain order. As this was going on, Kevin's relationship with Sabrina was much different. He didn't really enforce any rules, and he was unnaturally close to Sabrina in a way that was described as creepy and boundary violating. One friend of Sabrina's said that Sabrina and Kevin would make sexual jokes with each other. Sabrina would later say that the relationship with Kevin became sexual in the spring of 2012. Kevin and Lisa started arguing frequently, and they were contemplating divorce. The police were called to their residence on September 15, 2012, because Lisa accused Kevin of choking Megan. This same month, Lisa indicated she was ready for Sabrina to move out of the house. In October 2012, Sabrina asked one of her friends if she was able to connect her with a hitman who could kill Lisa. Sabrina said that Kevin and Lisa were going to divorce, and Lisa was worth more dead than alive. Kevin contacted Sabrina's social worker that same month and asked if Sabrina could stay with him if he separated from his wife. Sabrina turned 18 on October 27, 2012. She petitioned to stay with Kevin and Lisa, even though she could have left the foster care system at that point. Lisa was not happy about this decision because she suspected something was going on between her husband and Sabrina. According to Sabrina, on November 15, Kevin told her that he was going to end his life if his wife remained alive. Sabrina told Kevin she would kill Lisa. This takes us to the timeline of the crime. On November 16, just after 1 p.m., Sabrina acquired a 15-inch knife and walked into Lisa's bedroom as Lisa was sleeping. Sabrina started stabbing Lisa with the intent of killing her quickly, but Lisa woke up and started fighting back. Sabrina proceeded to stab her foster mother 178 times. On a few occasions, she twisted the knife. Lisa did not survive. As the attack was going on, 13-year-old Megan woke up and saw what was happening. She called 911 at 1:15 a.m. and said, "She's stabbing my mom with a knife and she's beating her." The dispatcher asked who had the knife. Megan replied, "My sister. She's trying to kill my mom." The police arrived, entered the house, and approached Lisa's bedroom. Sabrina was ordered out of the bedroom. She walked out still holding the knife. She dropped it on the command of the police and was arrested. The police found that Lisa was dead. Lisa's 3-year-old daughter, Haley, was hiding in the bedroom closet, but she was physically unharmed. Sabrina was taken to the hospital before being taken to jail because she had sustained several stab wounds during the attack. Kevin was notified about his wife's death. He was in Michigan for his job at this time. On the same day, the day Lisa was murdered, Kevin started filing life insurance claims. The next day, November 17, Kevin attempted to visit Sabrina in jail. He appeared to be anxious. When he was told that there was no visiting time available that day, he became more anxious. Over the next few months, Kevin used the insurance money to pay off his house, buy a house in Florida, purchase cars, and take flying lessons. Initially, Sabrina did not mention anything about a conspiracy to commit murder. She told the police that she remembered standing outside Lisa's bedroom and nothing else after that. It appears she was suffering from ultra-convenient conviction avoidance memory loss. However, this condition was not going to prevent her from spending her entire life in prison. Lisa decided to cooperate with the authorities in early August 2013. She was offered a plea deal, life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years, in exchange for testifying against Kevin. Kevin was arrested on August 9 and charged with several crimes related to murder, including conspiracy to commit aggravated murder, as well as charges related to having sex with Sabrina. In 2014, he was found guilty of all charges. A few months later, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. He will be eligible for parole in 2043 at the age of 73. The next month, Lisa was given the same sentence. She is eligible for parole in 2042 at the age of 47. Now moving to my analysis. There's no question that Sabrina was guilty of murder. The debate in this case centers around Kevin. Was he having sex with Sabrina, and did he conspire to murder his wife? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that Kevin is guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Kevin's foster daughter Sabrina murdered his wife Lisa in a manner that appears to be premeditated. Kevin's wife had multiple life insurance policies totaling $785,000. Sabrina was aware of these policies. Several people noticed that Kevin was inappropriately close to Sabrina. A few examples. A friend said they joked about sexual topics. A worker at Sabrina's school said that when Kevin was visiting on one occasion, Sabrina sat on his lap. Lisa sent a number of messages to Kevin asking why he was so interested in Sabrina and why he spent so much time with her. Kevin asked a social worker about Sabrina staying with him if he separated from his wife. Sabrina had Kevin's contact information stored in her iPod under the name Kevin Love. And at some point, Sabrina bought him underwear. When the authorities initially notified Kevin about the murder, he seemed more curious than upset. He asked the police to give him every detail about the murder. Friends who came by the house in the days after the murder said that Kevin was acting strange and aloof. At Lisa's funeral, friends felt as though Kevin's emotional response was inappropriate. Kevin asked people to pray for Sabrina. He did not mention his wife. Kevin was desperate to visit Sabrina in jail. He told a friend that he wanted to let Sabrina know he was still there for her and had not given up on her. This seems unusual considering Sabrina had just killed his wife. Between November 1 and November 16, 2012, Kevin and Sabrina exchanged 1,491 digital communications. During that same period, Kevin and Lisa only had 201. In the 5.5 hours leading up to the murder, there were 78 communications between Kevin and Sabrina. During that time, no communications took place between Kevin and his wife. Kevin asked a worker who was cleaning up the crime scene to look for a finger and a ring that might be in the bedroom where his wife was murdered. This seems like a bizarre request, but maybe Kevin was worried that the worker wouldn't be willing to lift a finger. Kevin filed insurance claims right after his wife was murdered. In the months following her murder, he used the insurance money to make unnecessary and extravagant purchases. Now moving to the exculpatory factors. Kevin was not at home when the murder was committed. No physical evidence ties him to the homicide. Kevin did not have a criminal record. Sabrina had a history of being angry, deceptive, manipulative, and using substances. The police searched 22 different electronic devices found in the Knafel home, but found nothing tying Kevin to Lisa's murder. One of Sabrina's friends helped the police by recording an in-person conversation with Kevin that took place in his residence. She asked him what she should tell the police about the hitman and the relationship between Kevin and Sabrina. Kevin told her that he did not know what Sabrina said to her. She should tell the truth to the police. Sabrina had bipolar disorder, as well as several other mental illnesses. She claimed that she heard voices telling her to kill people. Maybe her beliefs that she and Kevin were a couple and conspired to commit murder were delusions. Perhaps the voices told her to kill Lisa, and she thought that they came from Kevin somehow. Sabrina did not tell her friends that she was having sex with Kevin. There were no witnesses to sexual behavior. Sabrina did not mention a conspiracy until 9 months after she was arrested, and her testimony against Kevin prevented her from facing life in prison without the possibility of parole. When considering all the evidence, do I think that Kevin was guilty? I think that he was guilty of all the offenses in reality, but I'm not convinced that he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt as far as the murder. I think he was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of having sex with Sabrina. The problem here is that Sabrina had a motive to commit the murder that may have been based on a delusion. She was not a credible witness. She could have simply fabricated the whole story to drag someone else down with her. Here's what I think happened in this case. This is just a theory, my opinion. Kevin had been married twice before. Lisa had been married once before. The couple really wanted this marriage to work out, but right away they started having problems in the relationship. Perhaps as a way to mix things up or to develop a sense of purpose, they decided to adopt a troubled teenager. Sabrina became a metaphor for the relationship. If they could rehabilitate her, they could save their marriage. Right away, Kevin was attracted to Sabrina. He did not support any efforts to discipline her because he wanted to stay friendly, which put all the weight on Lisa. With Kevin always playing the role of the good guy and Lisa always being the bad guy, the disparity between the couple grew. Sabrina now viewed Kevin as an angel and Lisa as a devil. In addition, Sabrina had been repeatedly abandoned and was now desperate for the approval of a father figure. Kevin started manipulating Sabrina. He painted his relationship with Lisa as something that would destroy him. He needed her help. Only Sabrina could save him from the terrors of his marriage. He gave Sabrina the chance to play the hero, a role with which she was unfamiliar. Kevin may have given Sabrina explicit instructions to commit the murder, or just strongly hinted about what could be done to save him from his wife. Sabrina's age, personality, and mental health symptoms left her vulnerable to being manipulated. She developed rage toward Lisa, which was equal to the love that she thought she had for Kevin. Sabrina became convinced that Lisa had to die to save her love. Sabrina carried out the murder and for a while stayed with the plan of pretending not to remember what happened. Over time, Sabrina felt abandoned and rejected by Kevin and turned against him. Now moving to my final thoughts. The dysfunctional dynamics between Kevin and Lisa were amplified by the presence of Sabrina. Her experiences made Sabrina vulnerable to being shaped into a weapon. Kevin lost control of that weapon, which led to his magical prison journey. When Kevin attempted to visit Sabrina when he was in custody, he was anxious to see the inside of a jail, even if just for a few minutes. It appears as though he will have to settle for prison, but at least he'll be able to enjoy it for a long time. Those are my thoughts on the case of Sabrina Zunich. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.